Gita gives philosophical speculation about the realities of our lives and how to create a meaningful life, a significant life, which is free from building up negative karma, but is full of relation to the ultimate. The containers or repositories of stories about Vishnu and his Avatara, especially Avatar Krishna, is contained in another body of scriptures called the Puranas, which we referred to previously. It is 18 books containing myths about the gods Vishnu, Shiva, and Brahma interacting with people. There's about 6 of these books for each of the gods. One of the most famous of these gods on Vishnu and his avatar Krishna is the Bhagavad Purana. It makes the ultimate being Vishnu as very earthly, as an adorable boy, as a baby that steals butter, or a toddler that steals butter, as a child that walks around the forest and the farms playing its flute and playing with other children, as a child that almost lazily and without a concern in the world defeats horrible demons that comes to destroy him and everything. It brings this ultimate being into an earthly way so that he can easily be related to. So in a way, the Bhagavad Puranas bring the divine being into multiple roles or stations to be related to in a very significant way, and in ways of other significant relationships, but this divine being becomes that perfect role or that perfect sort of person in one's life, whether it's a child who's the most darling child, the very kind of child oneself would want to have, as a dear, devoted friend, the best kind of friend one could have, as one's best beloved and lover, and we'll speak more about that in a second. But also as Lord of the universe, as this transcendent being who's creator and we must be devoted to and obey. And in the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks Vishnu, and this is not the Puranas but the Bhagavad Gita, note that I just switched back to it. In the end of the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna asks Krishna to reveal his true reality, his true divine splendor to him, and Krishna unfolds his divine reality as a brilliant 1,000 suns that Arjuna is gazing upon, and it's completely overwhelming for Arjuna, and he understands why the god or godhead usually does not disclose himself in his full splendor. So as the Lord of the universe, one's relationship to the divine becomes that of a humble servant. Someone from a Christian background might be able to relate to this sort of multiplicity of roles by which we can relate to the divine in a very personal sort of way, right? The stories of Jesus being born in a manger, and this darling divine child who's visited by wise men and kings and bearing gifts. Right, the stories are told by many Christians every year in the celebrations of the Nativity around Christmas, or Jesus as being unfolding himself as a friend, and a dear friend to his disciples, especially towards the end of the book of John and the 4 Gospels. That of Jesus as a beloved and lover was a motif that was emphasized by many mystical authors in the medieval through the Reformation period, and sometimes continues through today as God is one's dear, best beloved, and monks and nuns would of the Catholic Church would write about God in this way, as well as the Eastern Orthodox Church. We can get a sense of how devotees taking a bhakti path thought of Krishna as his or her beloved by this poem of Princess Mirabai in the 16th century, who was a devotee of Krishna. She writes in her poem, and this is found in the anthology: "Without Krishna I cannot sleep, tortured by longing, and the fire of love drives me to wander hither and thither. Without the beloved, my house is dark, my bed is uninviting. When will my beloved return home?" Very sort of domestic in a way, conceptualization of God as one's dear beloved, or Krishna as one's dear beloved, as the God in human form. In one of the most famous tales of Bhagavad Purana, we find the youth Krishna, who's loved by all the Gopis, or cowherd girls who follow him around. He's this beautiful youth who plays his flute, and right, is most handsome of handsome fellas, and so they follow him around, and he begins dancing with them as he plays his flute, and each one of them has an experience in which she herself is the only one in the world there with her beloved Krishna. There's no one and nothing else in the world but her and her beloved Krishna. There's been various commentaries upon this story within Hindu as well as non-Hindu history. One of them is, and the most obvious, is the omnipresence of the divine being, that God is everywhere at once and can be in many places at one time. Therefore, he is accessible to each and every one of the gopis, or cowherd girls. Another commentary is that of the overwhelming reality of the divine, and that when one truly devotes his or herself to the God, to loving the God, then the divine reality becomes, in one's being, in one's consciousness, the only thing that truly, truly, fundamentally exists. And a third commentary, which gives a sort of universalistic approach towards Hinduism and religion in general, is a commentary in which says that a person of whatever religion who follows that religion and devotes his or herself to his or her God might have such a wonderful experience of the divine presence that one would think that they have the truth and the greatest truth, and that all other forms of religion probably are inferior to one's own religion, in which one can experience the divine presence in such greatness, right? But perhaps this is the experience of anyone through any religion that devotes his or herself to that God, is this experience of the transcendent, of the divine presence, and this God's saving grace. And so it's a Hindu commentary that there's many paths towards God, but when one follows that path with great devotion, the same God, the same being, is there waiting for you. A form of Vaishnavism, or devotion to God Vishnu, was popularized in North America from the 1960s by this bald gentleman that you see right here, whose name is A.C. Bhaktivedanta. He has a very long name. We'll just go with A.C. Bhaktivedanta for our purposes. He founded, from the 1960s, first preaching in public parks in New York and talking to anyone who would give him a hearing ear passing by. He would tell them about the wonders and glories and beauty of devotion to Krishna as the embodiment of the supreme Godhead, or supreme God, as this avatar of Vishnu, as Krishna as being the best access or best portal to be able to connect with God and have a really fulfilling life. And so as he gained more followers, he founded a society based on the movement he was part of in India, which movement of Vaishnavism that goes back to perhaps the 15th century or earlier. So he founded an organization called the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, which now isn't just in India and the United States, but is in many countries around the world. They're more colloquially or popularly known as Hare Krishnas. So Hare Krishnas based on a mantra that they frequently recite and actually sing in unison. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. These are names of avatars or expressions of Vishnu. We hear the word Krishna in there. They later recite the word Rama, right, as other big avatar, and Hari itself refers to a name for Vishnu, the one who removes illusion, or sometimes it's been translated as meaning the Shakti or feminine power, or the power of Krishna's female consort Radha, this active female energy that makes a god powerful and being able to accomplish its purpose, his purpose to be efficacious. And so it's a Bhakti Vishnu movement, devotional movement. They emphasize a very active devotional form of worship of Vishnu, especially through his avatar Krishna, through the use of songs, mantras, dancing joyfully, celebrating one's pleasure one takes in communing or becoming close with their god Krishna. By many of them, though not all of them, live communally together and live together in the same place and travel together. And they practice vegetarianism, not eating any forms of meat, having a kind of a ahimsa principle of nonviolence towards animals, which we'll learn more about as we get into Jainism, which takes this principal ideal to an extreme, some would say, or just the way it should be according to Jains. So the ISKCON, or the Hare Krishnas, International Society for Krishna Consciousness, has thousands and thousands of followers today. A.C. Bhaktivedanta has died or has passed, and the organization has a hierarchy of leadership today that organizes its affairs. Lastly, here are two of the popular festivals that Hindus will celebrate, although people who are not Hindu in India, just because there's such big celebrations, they might celebrate it too. People of the Jain persuasion, Buddhists, even Christians and Muslims might partake in these holidays or holy days. For everyone is doing it, just like Christmas often encompasses people who are not necessarily Christian or have a Christian identity within the United States. It's become, just because it's such a big holiday. So there's Holi. It's a spring festival. People will make bonfires, grand bonfires to celebrate it, and they'll sing and dance in the streets. And this is the one you've probably seen images of, where people will throw colored powder or colored water on each other, and these colors celebrate fertility and abundance, right? But it's each Hindu might have a little bit different, or each branch of Hinduism might have a little bit different story or interpretation depending on whether one's a devotee of Vishnu or Shiva or one of the goddesses. In the Vishnu form of it, it's a celebration of Vishnu defeating a demon. Then there's Diwali or Diwali. This is an autumn festival. It is the festival of lights. It celebrates the victory of light over darkness. People will clean thoroughly their homes to come in the season. They'll light lamps and use electric lights that will be put up around cities and villages. Lots of fireworks will be put up to celebrate it. There's giving away of sweets and gifts, and it has many myths that go along with it, but in more generality, it's a victory of light over darkness, and therefore the very big emphasis on lights and putting up lights. And I'll post some videos related to this that you can view.